Guillermo, lepo pozdravljen v podcastu Mentalne vadbe. Daj mi povej, glede na to, da sva ob zaključku tega leta, a si boš malo mikrofon naštimal? Ja. Daj mi povej, ob zaključku tega leta, kakšno je bilo zate leto 2023, kaj si se kaj novega naučil?
Osebno?
Ja.
Yeah. Well, basically, the strongest experience I had this year was becoming an art teacher for children mostly. And also to create, to make like support space holder with music for workshops for women. So children are somehow, maybe both things make me feel strong in a way. Like I'm not challenged by these demographics. Children are really inspiring and really they are somehow, what can I say, like they are like in the edge of society, in the sense like society is evolving and we are born and then there is a period where we expand and we are trying to understand the reality. Eventually we take a position, if we are lucky, and then we start to judge whatever is happening with more and more accuracy. But we always belong to this place where we finally became conscious of basically who we are and where we are, basically. You can imagine like people who listen to a specific type of music from when they were, I don't know, maybe teenagers or something like that, or a bit more, or a bit less. And this stays there, you know. We keep growing, our consciousness, our understanding of reality keeps growing, but the departing point or the basement of the understanding of the interpretation of reality, it belongs to this moment, no? Which type of influences happen, that's, I just believe it, it's not proven. Okay. And then in a way, children, what they have is that they are on the edge of where humanity is leading, you know? Mm-hmm. We can have different approaches. Some people like make them like they think they are like wise guidance or something. Mm-hmm. Other people think they don't know nothing. I believe that something in between, in the sense that they have a lot of potential and a lot of like fresh, untamed energy. Okay. They were not like educated or yet, and they have a lot of their impulses and their natural responses are still functioning without restrictions. Mm-hmm. But yeah, at the same time, they are trying every single possibility. So okay. I wouldn't let them lead me because they don't make big distinctions between like what is maybe what will be the consequences of something that you choose. No? When I was a child, my mother found me once. I had a needle metal for this quachkanya, yeah, and then I was going for this electricity on the wall. I was very curious and going with the metal thing. So I don't think you can really ask children to tell you how to live. No, they need some guidance, and but you can really learn from them in terms of how their natural responses are actually, in most of cases, still functioning, activated. While in us, there are a lot of layers of restriction. It's much harder for us to be spontaneous and honest and one-sided than for them. So this experience to be like, to be in constant contact with them, it gives me this understanding this feeling that I understand the state of humanity. Even if the people I am working with, the children and the parents, are a very, very, very narrow part of the society, because it's like people who are interested their children to go to an artistic activity, and that they had the time to actually make it happen and they can afford it. Mm-hmm. So it's really like a very narrow percentage of the society. But in my life, it has always been like this. I was always in some kind of very narrow, specific demographic, usually related with arts and culture. And wherever I went, I always thought that this is the society I'm living in, which is technically true.
Yeah.
But most of my friends says, no, this Chile is not like you think. The Patagonia is not like that you think. France is not like that. And Croatia is not what. Slovenia is not that. But well, that's what I see, and they are Slovenes. So that's my perception of the country. Yeah.
Ok, super. No, če se vrnemo nazaj na nekak začetek tvojega popotovanja, rojen si v Argentini, zakaj si se odločil zapustiti svojo državo, svoj dom?
Yeah, different explanations for this are like happening through my life. No, when I decided to leave, I was 18 or something like that, and I had some conflict at home with my mother or something, like some typical misunderstanding. But at this age, for me, it was like a terrible one. Now I see it in a bit more like a naive problematic. But in that moment, it was really, really going through all of my cells, and then in a way, it's kind of cruel. But the idea is like my mother was like a secretary, like tajnica, but she was writing the aspects that I detect the most is like she has the knowledge of some specific way of writing in that time, where the boss maybe was saying something and she has to transcribe it. So they had like a language or like some kind of abbreviation type of language where they didn't need to write all the words, but they write parts of them, And then because after the boss finished talking, they could easily expand this into a normal text. Some kind of zipping code writing, And then, so that's for me, in my mind, which is South American in the first place and artistic in the second, and my own mind with all my influences that I collect through life, it's a very connected with literature or with storytelling or imagination, or I don't know, it can even go far as like some dreaming type of perceptions, but it's never very, very realistic, the way I perceive things. After I learned to make the effort to rationalize everything, to check if my perception is accurate or if I am just completely wrong. So I got used to that since I moved to Slovenia. So my mother had this secretary, mysterious writing skill. My father was a carpenter, and he knew, I think, this Morse code or something, and he tried in vain to teach me at some point. But basically, he was like an action person, very introverted, and with a lot of hand skills, to build things, to use tools, to do heavy efforts. And these were them. They were workers, and they worked the whole life. And I don't know why I grow resentful on that at some point. Probably just because of the relationship with them and the hardships they have to actually make me like useful in some way. I imagine like they struggle with that. Then I had my sister, like a half sister from my mother. And then she was kind of taking care of me also. She was 12 years older than me. But in a way, I don't know exactly. It's not that I can detect or like denounce like some kind of thing that wasn't good for me, but I always got this desperation to go as far as possible from there at an emotional level, But not necessarily because I don't have any memory of them like mistreating me or abusing me in any way. It was just that I think my conscience was very curious and very thirsty for everything. And then being in this small life with these difficulties, because sometimes I have difficulties to pay, different things, or to go for holidays or things like that. And then I sensed like these guys, in my very early mind, I was thinking like, okay, these guys are working the whole life and they still cannot do what they want, And then my sister and probably my mother and everybody tried to encourage me to be who I am. I don't know actually why, because I didn't check with them on time before they die. I didn't check with them the motivations for this type of teaching. But so I was kind of trained or born to be free and to access to everything I could conceive. And at the same time, I was in a place which was kind of regular, with honest people, hardworking, with difficulties, no? Economic difficulties, and how worn out they were because of that lifestyle, you know, which never included like lack of food or lack of basics, but basically like, oh, I want this, no, I can pay for that. And this aspect was, and the tension, there was some kind of tension or frustration that belongs more to Argentinian society, I think, or the lower classes perhaps. So I wanted always to go away in a way, and this sentiment grew and grew and grew. And when I started to have conflicts with my mother, one day we had a fight probably, and I just left. I went to a friend, and then I decided that I will go be on my own. And then I started the incredible job of finding a place to live, and then self-sustaining myself and everything, which was, I think, 1 or 2 years of hell. Okay. Because it was the first shock, no? To go. I was 18 or something, wasn't that young either, but I was always protected at home. My father died when I was 12, and when I exit my home, it was around 18. And I didn't have a plan to come to Slovenia. I didn't even know if Slovenia exists. Okay. But apparently, when I was 5 years old, there was some kind of map of the world, and then one day I make a circle around this area with the pencil, and then when I eventually moved to Slovenia, like many years later, my mother told me like that when I was a child I had signaled in a map this Yugoslavia or something. I don't know. Basically, the motivation to go out was some kind of emotional pain of how much pain is around me. Maybe this was the motivation in the sense how much my family was suffering in a way at the personal level. Because I can perceive, not always, but sometimes I can perceive how people feel. And then I didn't establish yet any kind of filter to block these signals. So I start to feel like they feel, basically. And sometimes I forget that I am feeling others people feeling and it's not mine. And then I start to find the reason why I feel so bad. And then I bring something, you know, that happened to me that is personal. But maybe when I move to another room, I just don't feel anymore like that. Yeah. So probably life in Buenos Aires was a life that was marked by a lot of pain. There's a lot of social pain in the capital. There is a lot of... like people are really frustrated. There is a lot of economic problems. There is the political class, or all the institutions are somehow in some level abusive to the people. And then you develop this character where you should be some kind of like abused. You should be very egocentric and be first, and like just ignore everybody and go for what you want, or everybody step on you. So in a way it was Argentina, Buenos Aires maybe. It was more like a school to grow this sense of self, you know. I was thinking sometimes the idea of having a self, it sometimes helped by a hostile environment, you know. When things are difficult around you, you are more aware that you are an individual that has to kind of fight for his own needs. More than when everything is already taught and designed and cushioned and soft and cozy. There are less motivations for an individual to perceive who they are in contrast to the environment, and they tend more to follow what these people that are providing all this comfort are giving to them. Could be like values, or it can be like expectations of career or character or something. So in my way, maybe I forged my individuality in this hostile emotional environment. And I always I start to travel, and then I start to search anywhere something that I didn't know what it was, but it was for sure not here, you know, not there. In many ways, I think that this principle of like some people are visionary. Like for example, Kim, she has this visionary aspect that she sees something in the future and goes for it. I don't see much in the future.
Okay.
I am better to see the past, and I know what I don't want. That's more definable of my character. So I know what I don't want, and then when this is imposed on me or I end up in these situations, I willingly try to move away instead of accepting it, So my exit from Argentina was probably due to hardship, emotional hardship, and not clearly where,
Okay.
but for sure not there.
Okay.
And then I traveled for around 11 years.
Okay. Daj mi malo povej, kam si šel, prva postojanka iz Argentine in potem pot, ki se je nadaljevala?
Yeah, Argentina is a very big country. So I was in the beginning traveling through the country, I think around maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years. I understood that I had to go out from Buenos Aires. I developed some kind of hostility to the city. I kind of hate the city and the traffic and everything. And I developed, or I crafted for myself the wish to be in nature and tried to connect with an aspect of myself that was this Indian ancestry from my both parents. They had, in few generations back, they had some connection with Indians, very clear one. Because you could see it in the physiognomy and because the things I say and where they were coming from. So this was barely the moment where the idea of Indian identity started to be rewarded, which is one of the benefits, I think, of New Age. Not the directing, but like as a consequence of New Age. The way I conceive New Age is more like as a historical event. And the aspect that I understand the most concrete is a transfer of responsibility. So the New Age was an intention to transfer the responsibility of your spirituality from religions to yourself, or from esoteric schools to yourself, or from a national identity to yourself, or from a race characteristics to yourself. New Age it was like the beginning of something like a global world, where we were more aware of what was happening in other places. I think one of the things that happened is there was some movements in the East that some crazy people like everywhere and started to kill masters of Kung Fu and all these things, and they ran and seek asylum in America. And then they start to build their own schools, and then they start to influence American society with this ancestral knowledge and all these principles. And the same happened in Tibet, and there was a lot of transfer of knowledge from one side of the planet to the other. And it has the capacity of these hosting nations to cast this message. The global influence of America with these movies and the technology and everything, and the way they kind of cover the world with their culture and the language, and that way we are talking partially why we are talking English now. It was some kind of like lucky movement where all this knowledge came from very, very close environments where you have to. It was very hard to access to knowledge in the past, not so long ago, You need to really maybe wait outside a monastery for 1 week and if they let you go in or not. And now it's in every phone. And so there is a resistance to New Age because New Age brought this, this accessibility to knowledge. And it's also the delusion of knowledge because you have access to all the knowledge at the same time and there is no guidance. But this is why the idea was that the responsibility is in you to filter all these influences and decide about your own spirituality instead of relying in some priest or some religion or some leader of a country or some kind of other structures that were more intense in the past. This is my understanding of New Age, and when I kind of awake to consciousness when I was around 18, it was the moment where this was the most trendy. not in the sense of like, I think later through the years, New Age evolve or devolve into something that is more related with something that is fake. Many people, because there was so much freedom to try everything, people without maybe the honest intentions to grow spiritually, or maybe without the knowledge of how to do it. They access to things and they did whatever they could, and then they start to create some kind of bad reputation for New Age. But the transfer of responsibility from social institutions to the individual remains the same, and it's underneath even the bad behavior of people that we could easily condemn, because now we are completely used that you can do whatever you want. But before the New Age, it was not a possibility as strong as it is now everywhere around the world. That's why I like it so much, because it was like a symbol of freedom and sovereignty, in the sense that even if I didn't like the place I was, and I didn't like the conditions or the family where I came from, and I feel like kind of powerless, I got from New Age the responsibility and the entitlement to try whatever I consider correct,
Okay.
Which my conscience is enough to guide my steps. And I can also find masters on my own. It's not that I know everything, but I can decide who will teach me to be, instead of being just shoveled directly into some big crowd of people that because I'm born there and I'm supposed to be like that. What was the question?
No, se lahko mogoče nadaljujeva s tem, katera kultura ti je do trenutka, ko si prišel v Slovenijo in že, mislim, da 12 let si v Sloveniji.
Približno, ja.
Približno. In tukaj ostal, katera kultura te je največ naučila, mogoče največ dala, ali pa ti je kakšna kultura, ki je vzela, si se kje počutil, mogoče kje si se počutil najbolj osamljeno in kje si se počutil najbolj doma na tvojem potovanju?
Yeah, the most lonely I felt always in Argentina, no? Because it's very tough, and it's very tough with the life choices I made, At the same time, I am really proud of how Argentina forged my character, I feel identified with this tough, self-determined consciousness, which I think is coming from there, no? But all the other needs that they are more like, perhaps more like female that belong to the female, no? Because tough is more like this attribute of the male. So Argentina was a really tough place where you need to defend yourself or they destroy you. And then, no matter if you want it or not, you end up doing it. At least the way I perceive it with my conditions. And then the softer aspect, which is to belong, to be respected, to be understood, to be considered, to be appreciated and nourished. All these aspects I had to find on my own somewhere else. So the toughest was the capital.
Okay.
And then I started to move through the country, wandering. I think it's like some kind of drifter now. In America, at least, I was constantly reading philosophy and classics, and I was forging my own ideas of reality based on these readings, or like, I don't know, ancient Greeks or history or South American poets and writers, or classics, I don't know, French classics or from 19th century, different. It was the thing that was near my hands, no? And all the painters of the 19th century, all these movements. It's not that I was searching for this knowledge, it was the closest to me. And one book leads you to the next. And then eventually I was many years inside this soup of ideas and understanding, which were not Argentinian, They were or South American, or they were like European, or even American in some sense. So I started to build for myself a consciousness, or like a culture within myself, which has nothing to do with the place I was. Okay. And that's what I was constantly moving.
Yeah.
I think it was a period, for 11 years, I think I was 3 months moving. Every 3 months I move,
Okay.
non-stop. Changing houses or changing, because even if I was in maybe one spot, let's say for 6 years, I was constantly changing habitats and circles of people and things like that. So it was, or traveling for half a year and coming back. So I was constantly on the move and creating this puzzle of influences that I would say, I want to be like Socrates in this aspect, so to learn how he did it. And then I have this little corner of me that is like Socrates, and then another which is like this other guy, and this like this poet, and like this, like this, like this. And I made a puzzle of remarkable people that I admire through books or through stories from other people, and I took a part of it and I kind of tried to get closer to this attribute and create this new age collage of influences that dictates what is right and what is wrong, and then became kind of loyal to that and used to that. And many of these structures were shaken by experience also, because what happens to you when you move all the time is that all these principles and all these ideas have to be constantly tested on the field, because there is nobody is taking care of you. There is no like a country like welfare that will protect me. There's no family that was willing to finance any of my adventures or anything. Or there is no emotional containment of any kind, unless the one you kind of trade in society because of the way you are. And then all these principles that I was learning, I had to test them in the real life, in hours, maybe, or days. It was not like I was reading something and I was start to experience these things. So I could also discard a lot of things that were not functional for me, maybe there. At some point, I got the feeling that actually it will be almost impossible to experience certain things there because of how the culture was built, because of the conquest and because of all these 500 years of hardship that South America has. There are certain human experiences that we cannot produce in that context. A certain level of trust, or a certain level of honesty, or a certain level of pride on yourself, or a certain like positivism, like not in philosophically, but some positive attitude that you cannot really take easily, because you are constantly reminded of how bad was the history of South America, and you see it. You are walking on the street, and you need to go through people that are sleeping in the street, and there are certain things you cannot experience there. You need to somehow move to other societies to really understand how these other societies see the things and how they see your society, and that to have the possibility to experience other type of human experiences.
Ok, kako pa Slovenija? Kar nekaj časa si tukaj, kako to, da si se ustalil in najdel svoj prostor nekako v Sloveniji? Zakaj Slovenija?
Yes, I think it was because of pressure and the muse.
Okay.
I think my mind is really artistic. So South America has this aspect which is called animism, where we provide of life everything in it. You could think like it's not true, but it is true. So my bike is like I know that it's not a horse, but it is like, in a way, it's not an object for sure. And everything is kind of like that, because I think Indians perceive the world in this way, at least they are. And even if now the population there is different, this perception of reality, it's a little bit more animistic, in the sense that we think that everything can get angry at you in a way, if you are, I don't know, disrespectful, maybe. Or if the computer doesn't work, it's because you mistreat him, or mistreat it. Okay. So the it and him, her is not so, it's a bit foggy. And so I have this type of mind where I understand reality in an animistic way, and on top of that, I also have this artistic, poetic way of understanding. So sometimes my perception is not really accurate, but it's not very rational and very it's not that everybody can share this type of understanding, because they wouldn't give so much importance to something that for me is crucial. For example, the monument of Prešeren and the Muse. When I came here by chance, and I saw that in the main square of the capital of the country, instead of a guy with a gun on a horse, there was a poet with a muse. I just say, okay, that's it.
Okay.
This is the country I was searching for, I don't know how, 20 years. Because at least at the level of curiosity, I was really, really curious of which kind of people take this decision, why there's not a gun like everywhere else. And then I found out, but this was like a feeling of actually wanting to stay there, the idea of the muse is very connected with the poetry. There were ideas that were close to me. I don't feel so connected with the idea of Prešeren that people have in general, or maybe the way he was, which people are not super proud of him in general. But I don't know, I didn't read much of his, I almost didn't read nothing he wrote, because for me the symbol of the poet was more important than that particular poet in itself. Okay. I think this Veselica is incredible, and I agree 100% with this feeling, with this feeling where I wish everybody would be my friend, basically, or that we can find a way to be friends, and there is no reasoning to go and invade another people, or being invaded for anybody else, or fight anyone, because I think the world is huge and there is enough for everybody. That's a feeling. It's not that I can really prove it, but that's how I understand reality. So basically, this was the main, the biggest drive to stay, to try to find out which society gives more importance to poetry than war. And then many million other details. It took me 2 years between Split and Ljubljana to choose where I really wanted to be. But yeah, I think something related with the values that I found here, the way people naturally are. There is something very homogeneous in this society, which is not present maybe in Chile or in Argentina, where everybody thinks the same. There's much more contrast, different social classes and different understandings of reality. They are opposed also really badly. So it's not so easy to have this perception, even of homogeneity in a society. I think here it is somehow happening. At least as a foreigner, I perceive it in this way, that even people that are opposed, let's say politically, or any kind of opposition they have, historic or whatever, gender or whatever, if you ask them, or if they're in a situation where there's a lot of pressure on them, they have the same values. Because the more pressure they are, the more honest your reactions are going to be, and the more deep the reality of you, it goes out when you are under pressure. The higher the pressure, the more you can see who you really are. Yeah. And after some age, then it's not you anymore. No, after too much pressure, then you just become more like an instinctual survival individual. But so I think in a way, most of people believe in certain values that for me were naturally, maybe they were the values from my home, which I don't remember, but probably. Or maybe just some innate characteristic of how soft I actually feel in relationship with the world, how naive I am, how inoffensive I can be, and how I'm in love with everything, basically, all the things, the way the things look, the people, how they are, the way they talk, the way they move, their problems, their realities, the culture, everything. I love everything in a way, in a very technical way. When I compare my character to other characters of friends or people I knew that perhaps they are more critical or more gloomy in general, So I am Leo. maybe it's because of that, or maybe it's just something that my family injected in me, like some love for everything, or for learning, or for everything.
Okay. Kako pa nekako opazuješ spremembe v mestu, v katerem živiš, v družbi, in kako te spremembe nekako vplivajo in na te, in na tvoje delo in ustvarjanje?
Which type of changes you mentioned?
V 12 letih, kaj bi rekel, da se je spremenilo, recimo v Sloveniji? A je karakter ljudi v umetnosti, a se je kaj, je bil kakšen tak premik, ki si ga zapomnil?
Not really.
Ne?
I assume that maybe 12 years ago people didn't have a phone, and they were not like all the time in their phone like we are now. I assume it, but I don't remember experiencing this jump on my own. It's this perception I have is very difficult to make it like to represent a section of society, because when I came here, I think I never had a computer in my life or something. Not necessarily because there are not computers in Argentina, but because of this, when I departed and I was so allergic to this lifestyle of my parents, I didn't want to work. This was a motivation for traveling also, because I will not work. I will not have a boss. I will not work for a salary. This is not for me. I want to be free, and I want to get knowledge from I want to know the world. So I never work basically in a normal work like most of people. And then I was more interested into building some kind of inner world than accumulating objects and titles and these type of things. Now, I don't regret it. I think actually have some title or some kind of, if I could be able to have maybe here and there a job, or like study some formally a little bit here and there, I would have maybe perhaps less hardship, or I would have maybe in some way a little bit different opportunities. But at that point for me the rebellion was total, and I was not going to accept any kind of abuse or thing that I didn't like. So basically for me everything changed when I came here, like I got an iPhone, I don't know, like probably 8 years ago or something, the first time I got something like that. Maybe many people did, but for me it was really a change. The changes that I perceive are more changes in my own status in the society, and I don't really perceive people changing. I don't know, the most fraternal experience we had, it was probably this COVID. Like everybody was under the same pressure. So in a way we all got through it. And that's like a lot of connection. Even if during we were all against each other, but like after it was like, we survived that all together in a way. And we are all happy that it's not happening anymore. So I feel that there were things that we experienced all together, but my life is changing constantly on purpose, because I'm constantly opening new fields and leaving behind others. So I wasn't stable enough to perceive a change in society, because everything I perceive is like I didn't know this was like that, Oh, I didn't know that there is YouTube, I didn't know that people have their opinions on Facebook. I didn't know all these things, and I am still getting surprised by this. Things that maybe everybody knows for years, and they see a difference. I know technically that this was like a socialist or communist area, and then now it's like a capitalist area, let's say. But I don't think this is related with one country in particular. I think it's more like it's like the weather, it's raining, it's not raining, and in the border it stopped raining. It's just raining in Europe or something, or Eastern Europe or in Central Europe. And I think these political trends are huge movements, that they are not really something we can make responsible like anybody directly, you know. They are like mass movements that they also like, they are consequences of things that happens like, I don't know, maybe like 50 years ago or 200 years ago or I don't know, 10,000. So it's like history is one thing after the other, and everybody is involved, and then you get the cards you get, you know. So in some sense for me, because Argentina, as far as I know, was always some kind of, let's say, capitalistic type of economy where you have to kind of fight, and then if you are aggressive enough, you can make it, and nobody is going to help you. Compared to that, I think this here is super, I don't know, like super social and like super cozy reality, you know. But this is because I come from a place that was much harder, you know. I know that people complain that now everything is fake and everything is it's unfair, which is in a way true. Technically, it is true that we are getting used, for example, not to believe in the things that we are consuming constantly. No? Like, I know, like, I don't know, just to say whatever, but we can transfer it to almost any experience that is related with some kind of reclama, some kind of commercial. You know that what you see is not true. Or at least you expect that there is some kind of trick somewhere.
Yeah, but you still buy it.
Yes, because you want that, but what we are getting used and what we really dislike and start to slowly build this bitterness in all levels is that I don't need you to lie to me because I am still searching, let's say, for some shoes anyway. So you don't need to show me a bigger shoe and then don't tell me that after I had to pay for the shipping or something like. But this is somehow the way that social media is really strong and commercials are really strong because it's just randomly a model that somebody invented at some point. If the idea would be different, the model would be completely different. But it just happened to be like that, you know. So commercials are paying for everything that we get technically for free in terms of, or for very low price. Even if there is a high price in consciousness, in the character, in the welfare of society, there is a very low economic cost to access to internet and to all the benefits that internet brings. And the model still is for now, but I don't know for how long, probably not much long, that commercials are paying for all these platforms and for all these possibilities that they are so necessary for everybody now, you know. So criticizing the things that they are supporting your life is not my style, but I can understand why a person end up criticizing the soil where they live or the air they are breathing or the family that raised them. I understand it because one thing is the technicality of the objective reality of the things that provide you of life. Another thing is how you feel about it. And people complain because of feelings mostly. How you feel about something justify a complaint.
A pa se, oprosti, kaj te motim, a se dostikrat počutimo ljudje v neki vlogi žrtve in ne moramo premagati te vloge žrtve in iti naprej. Se ti zdi, da si ti premagal neko vlogo žrtve, ki si se izselil iz Argentine?
Yes and not. Yeah. I did a jump, like a social jump. A social jump that in my country might have been completely much difficult. Just by coming here and actually being in a society that is in total more wealthy, I made a jump I went from one social class to the next in a couple of years. I had like an incredible amount of work to do because I had to learn the language and I had to learn all the rules that were upside down. I have to learn my own identity and my own wounds, and I have to go through at least 5 years of hell since I came until I kind of start to manage this migrant life in a way that it was not extremely painful. And I start to become less painful to my friends also and the people that were helping me. Victimhood, it is true. It's not like we are in something, we are being victimized by all these forces. But victimization is more like, it's somehow like an expression of lack of power.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have the power to do what I want, let's say, and I'm forced to do something I don't want. I'm a victim of this or that. I think people in the past, I think it's human, you know. I don't think that we can aim to get rid of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I did, or what I believe it's somehow perhaps more efficient, is that you organize your inner world in like a city, you know, and then you have different neighborhoods, and you have different aspects inside yourself which are capable of different type of experiences, you know. And you can make one of these neighborhoods overcome the state of victimhood.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe few. Or maybe you have, like, for a while you have a mayor that is actually not a victim, and then people are happier and something within yourself. But I wouldn't aim to completely eradicate the victimhood, because it's a natural aspect of humans in a way. If you want to eradicate victimhood, maybe you should also, the most efficient way would be to eradicate individualism, no? If you don't perceive yourself as a self,
Mm-hmm.
then you probably are much less of a victim in many, many aspects of your life. But who wants to lose the self? Nobody, no? So,
Yeah.
and I think, imagine, like in the past, people, even now, like farmers, are powerless to the weather, you know? So, like, they work the whole month. I was a pastor for 1 year, you know, and with these goats in Bovets a few years ago. And then I saw their life is like, all depends on the weather, which influence the goats, which influence you 100%. They go and they don't go, they come faster than before, they die, they reproduce, everything is because of the weather. So at this level, the individual also was experiencing like a terrible powerlessness, and could complain and feel a victim of torture, or like a fire, or a wolf, or it's not something that it belongs to the capitalistic society. It's something like it's part of human in any, when you were a child, somebody was beating you, or the teacher was falling. It's constantly part of the experience, with things that we cannot completely eradicate from our life. We should reconcile and try to find a way to accept them, and actually being empowered by them, you know. In a way, for me, being a migrant it was like some level of victimhood, but a little bit randomly and a little bit who knows why. I can use it as a source of power.
Okay.
Because, for example, in my case, I choose to not to identify myself as an economic migrant, but as a cultural migrant, basically. Not a political migrant, but a cultural migrant. So I came to Europe because I love all these writers, and I wanted to be in Europe because of what the books I read in my teenage. And that's why I come here, to meet all this culture and to live from arts and to be in these progressive societies with free thinking and democracy. And these are the principles that I tell to myself I came for. And this is what I mean in terms of like, victimhood is a state of, in some level, of this responsibility, you know. I am not responsible for what is happening to me. Somebody else is, and I don't like it. Well, I suggest that because it's all at the level of feelings, and the feelings are inside your body, more or less, even if maybe they are not like, you cannot touch them, but they are produced in your body, you know? So you wake up, you sleep, you eat, you transform this food into energy, and this energy also fuels your emotions. Because without this energy, the emotions, you will die. Without the body, we don't know of any emotion. So the feeling of victimhood is really something that we produce, even if sometimes somebody forces us to do it. So responsibility, the end of victimhood could be somehow to assume responsibility for your own processes, and to find a way to negotiate your social interactions in a way that what is causing you pain today can actually empower you slowly, or in few months, or you just have to say, okay, that's what I get, you know. I can cry, but like that's what I get. So what do I do now? No, is it cold? Okay, I'm freezing. I hate the gods because it's so cold. And then, well, what you gonna do? You gonna die there, or you gonna invent fire or something? Or go and search for somebody and become a friend. Go find a cave. Do something to improve, because you can. You can improve your situation. Sometimes the pain is so acute that we don't know what to do. But sometimes the influences are so diverse, and there is no teachers anymore, there is no a clear path anymore, and it's all about all on me, I have to know which channel believe or not. I have to find out what is right. And yes, well, that's a new age. Yeah. It's all on you. Okay. And so you are free. It's much harder, but you are free.
Okay. Lahko za Slovenijo rečeš, da je tvoj dom, ali je odskočna deska za popotovanje naprej?
For now I feel it as at home, yeah. Okay. And I think actually from the places I know, not that I know many places, but I think it's a nice place. Okay. And then, one of my wishes is to buy some land somewhere and maybe make a little house. And then in this way, if I manage to do that, I would end this, I don't know how many years is around, like maybe almost 30 years of wandering, of drifting. Because now, if you are renting an apartment, it's not really your place in a way. It's more like you are living in somebody else's house. So technically, I am still moving, I don't mind being migrant because I found a way to turn it around and then enjoy the bright side of migration. It's not that I didn't experience the dark side, but I made an effort to transform all these experiences, and then it worked, because of the society is the way it is. One of the things a friend told me, it was like, you have these two concepts. One is junaknost.
Junak, ja. Junaštvo.
Okay. And then the other is čuječnost.
Ja, čuječ, ja, tako.
So, the idea of my friend, my name means vites, no? It means this metal thing that you put in front of your face to protect. And Junak is the one who fights to protect himself or others from an external force. No? So the idea of the vites, was the vites was also like protecting a set of values that we are still using. But not all of them, or maybe most of them, were not like very pure, but they were into that trip. However, we can understand it from so much historic distance. So you have the Junak who protects from others, and čuječnost, yeah, is the quality of protect others from yourself, which is it's still war, but it's a different type. And my friend was suggesting that Slovenia it's more like čujeć, instead of many other countries that are more like Junak.
Okay.
That's why I choose to spend the best years of my youth here, because of this pacifistic nature, or like, for me this is a very deep spirituality in a way. The lack of need to go and destroy somebody, or perhaps the understanding that actually destroying is much easier and much more damaging than nourishing. It can take years to nourish something and 1 minute to destroy it. And there is a very old understanding, I think. You are not peaceful only because you are weak. You are peaceful because there are very deep values and principles that they are somehow orientating your life force, So like if the first reaction is to shrink, it's not necessarily cowardice. It's more like honoring life or something like that. There was many cases where Indians in South America or in Latin America or even in America didn't want to fight back, but not because they couldn't. It was just because they didn't think that a human should hurt somebody, in this way. Or the fall of the early fall. I think the early fall of Tibet was also in some areas due to that. Like life is sacred, so we are not going to do what we consider that you are doing wrong. Even if it can be rightful or it can be like justified. Yeah. So this is why I feel that this is a place that I could call home, because somehow my inner attributes resonate with the way people are here. Because I would also I would also go if somebody comes or something like. If there is some kind, I don't think I can be really, really aggressive against somebody else. But yeah, you never know. Depends the pressure. Yeah.
Ok, Guillermo, čas nama je potekel, meni je tako žal, jaz bi te lahko poslušala še ure in ure. Res, zelo luštno je bilo, hvala lepa za sodelovanje, hvala lepa za obisk, pa lej, se mogoče pa srečava še kdaj v kakšnem podobnem pogovoru. No?
Yeah, super. It's the first time I had an interview on the camera.
Ok, super.
Very nice first time.
Evo, vse enkrat prvič, hvala.